Hello, Miguel Chapa here. Just finished a great podcast with Mr. Gil Maza at Old Patrol HQ. I invite you to watch it. Great content. I'm looking forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Greetings and welcome to the Old Patrol HQ podcast. I'm your host, Gil Maza, retired Border Patrol Agent, Class 313 out of Glynco, Georgia. Today we welcome Miguel Chapa. He's running for Congressional District 25 in California. He was born and raised in Imperial Valley and is a 23-year resident of the Coachella Valley and has deep roots in both those communities he calls home. This is my effort to raise awareness of our voting options since the RNC likes to choose them for us, and well, how's that going for us? Come in and join the conversation. Good morning, Miguel, and welcome to the Old Patrol HQ podcast.
Gil, good morning. Appreciate and excited to be here with you this morning.
Well, and have I earned the place to call you Mike?
Absolutely.
Because you said only your friends call you Mike, so I wanted to double check on that. But we first met at the Indio Border Patrol golf tournament, right? And one of the guys there that likes to cause a lot of trouble invites me to those things every year. But he brought you over to me, to my booth, and he said, hey, have a little conversation with Mike about the border. And I noticed that some of the things I said kind of made your eyes go a little bit wide every now and then, right? And so that's the conversation I want to have with you today.
And I think that you hit it right on the nail, because that conversation we had, it should have been a 2-minute conversation. I think I left my booth and unattended because I believe I stayed 30 minutes with you until they came and said, hey, are you going to man your booth or what? It's like,
yeah.
Oh, well, I got to go. So it was, I think we connected from the beginning because I think we both see, what's going on, and we have the same interest when it comes to the border. So yeah, no, Mike, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm very thrilled to be doing this because I do want to take a more active approach. And I think more than ever, me, along with so many others, need to take a more active, interested approach in this election, especially since right now it feels like the RNC has kind of allowed a few rhinos to get under the mix, under our eyes, the people that they champion and they recommend, but you're not in that box. You're not in that box. So I want to start out by asking you, tell us a little bit about you and your background, and then how that led you to take on the challenge of becoming a congressman.
Well, again, like you said, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. And over the last 3 years, I began to get worried about things that are actually happening in California. So that's how I got started. And the attack on our families, our children, on parent rights. And that's what woke me up. And I started doing a lot of the research of some of the bills that have passed, or they were being proposed in California. And there's about 7 bills that just passed within the last 4 months that has to do with our parent rights. And those bills are older. They've been working on for years. And that's what got me really interested in that side of politics, paying attention. But more than anything, I'm a father. And when I started looking around, and when you worry about your family, your kids going to school, your wife going to the store,
yeah, that's
a problem. And yes. I had to look around and say, okay, well, there's nobody doing anything about it in California. I mean, we are, the majority, it's on the left, and it seems like we don't see eye to eye. And that's what led me to where I'm at now. And really, it's going to be a year tomorrow when I began this journey as a candidate, not a politician, because, even when I win, I want to be the citizen. I want to be the public servant that we need, and look people in the eye, be able to go to my community back and talk to my people and say, hey, I'm doing what I say I was going to do. So that's kind of how it started. There's so many things, Gil, that have changed in that year. My attention has been from one side to the other, but it's all important. So when they ask me, like, what's your platform, Miguel? Everything. Because we have troubles in every single aspect of our lives.
Yes. Yeah, and again, we're not, you can't win on just the border issue, which we're going to get into in depth today. You can't just win on that. And apparently, you're not the polished politician that the RNC tends to prefer.
I'm not. And again, I've been doing obviously campaigning, and I have social media ads going out. Well, and there's some hate messages coming in that I'm not used to, right? But
Yes.
but I always start with the same thing first and foremost, because they ask, "Are you a Republican?" And they start throwing rocks at you, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
number one, we're at a point in time that we should not be divided as a country. Let's start there. So the needs of the left and the right should be the same, because we all care about our families, we care about our education, we care about inflation. So we all should be on the same side. But with that said, I always tell them, first of all, I'm a concerned father, and
Yeah.
I'm going to do what's right for my community. And sometimes that means when you go against your party, then so be it, because not the country is very diverse. So what's happening here in Southern California, it's not the same thing that was happening in New York or Washington or
Yes.
Colorado. So when I'm looking at going to DC, I'm first looking at obviously my country. We need to follow the Constitution all the time, but I have to turn around and say, well, what do my people need in my district? And my district's very diverse too. So
Yes.
yes, we don't see, a lot of things, but I think that that's how it should be. That's the beauty of America, that we could do and say what we want to say, because that's America. And sometimes, the party doesn't look at it that way. So
Well, and I think about it, and the thing about this is that there are some issues, obviously, that Republicans and Democrats, independents can disagree on, can philosophically disagree on. But right now, there are things going on in our country that go far beyond red or blue. They literally are a red, white, and blue issue, an American issue. And one of the biggest ones is the southern border, or actually the entire border for that matter.
that's correct. That's correct. And that's a concern. And when I said that I've been changing, my views on things, not changing my things, my strategy, or spending more time on one thing over another, it's because of what you just said. Because when I started this journey, I was concerned about education, parent rights in California, and how that is going the wrong way.
Yes.
But I'll tell you one thing: if what's happening in the southern border, and now I believe in the northern border, then why would we care about education and housing and everything else if we are being overrun and we can't control it? So you're right. I mean, that is a big issue, and I'm glad that I'm on your show, because you have that inside information. And people, this is the thing, that people need to know what is going on. What they see on TV or on the internet might not be the truth. And
Right.
and when I speak with some people, they're totally blind of what's going on, and that to me is amazing, because I've been at the border and I know what's going on.
Well, one of my biggest turnoffs about politicians is the fact that they already think they know everything. But you said to me, I'm a citizen and I can only do the research that I can do online, and the research may be complete, maybe, fully there or not, maybe accurate or not. But you said you wanted to know exactly what's going on out there. And I remember telling you, whatever, as bad as you might think it is 100 times worse.
And that's the scary part, Gil. That is the
Yes.
scary part, because I had a conversation last night with a few friends. We were smoking cigars, talking politics. So it was a good night.
Heck yeah.
And we got to the border. And, I mentioned, the information you had given me that day, and we were going to be in this podcast today. And again, people need to know. And the research that we could do sometimes is tainted, to be honest
Yes.
with you. I
It
mean,
sure
we
is.
know that the tech companies are manipulating information in a way for their narrative. And when I see like that hate mail that I've gotten
Yeah.
from my advertising, that somebody in my district is telling me the border is not open, And to me, that is amazing because I know he's in California, and
Yeah.
I just told him, "Well, why don't you take a 1 hour drive? I know that you're in Southern California, 1.5 hour drive, and take a look at it by yourself."
Yeah, and that would be just that alone would be eye-opening, but never mind just what you can see, it's the entrenchment of it. Because look, the reason why I say it's not just a local issue and it's not just a Republican Democrat issue is because would you agree with me in your impression that every single American institution in this country right now has already been irrevocably changed due to the influx of just millions and millions and millions of unvetted, illegal alien crossers, right? They're calling them migrants, but I use the term illegal alien not derogatorily, but an appropriate law term, right? What institution in America has not been already completely changed, and for whom, and for maybe for decades to come?
And it's true. And on my side, I have to be very careful and explain because if I do a post and I mention immigration in any form,
Right.
I have to give a big explanation because my district is in Southern California. It goes from the Calexico border to the Arizona border up to San Bernardino, and then
Okay.
it goes back down through the Coachella Valley. So this district is 70% Hispanic. Out of that 70%, 95% would be Mexican Hispanics. So when you speak about immigration, you need to be very clear because they're very sensitive about any politician, which I'm not, but obviously as a candidate, they're looking at you as
You're a
one.
non-politician in politics.
A non-politician, but they look at, so I have to be very careful to
Agreed.
separate because
Yes.
what's happening now, and let's say, and I've had somebody said, hey, well, Ronald Reagan in the 80s opened the border. That's a completely different situation
Yeah.
because that was to help farm workers primarily because we do at that point we need them. We need them now. We need them then.
He
But
didn't open the border, but yeah, but that's not technically accurate. But the thing about it is that let's just make it clear right here and now for everybody listening to you and to me that we're not against legal immigration, right? Our
absolutely,
parents,
we
my
are
parents, I was the first of Mexican immigrants to be born in the United States, the first son to be born in the United States of all my cousins and everybody else like that, right? So I'm very mindful of that as well. And even in my 25-year career in the Border Patrol, I never lost sight of the fact that I come from a family of immigrants. We have no problem with legal immigration for many, many valid reasons, right?
absolutely. And I make it very clear what I'm talking about right now. And my concern about immigration is the illegal immigration that's been happening in the last 36 months because
Yes.
it's been done the wrong way.
Yes.
Legal immigration, you're vetted, it takes time, they know who you are. If you're a criminal, you're not coming. If you have other issues, you're not coming. That's the way it should be. We're a country. And like Ronald Reagan said, a country with no borders is no country. So we need to have those laws and follow them. What's happening now is completely different. And you said it that what agency is not being affected? Every single agency is being affected. Our health system,
Yes.
our law enforcement, housing, education.
Yes.
The community needs to understand that we're going to see a level of crime that we've never seen in our lives
We're
before.
seeing it. Bill Malusian just this morning said, we can't keep up with all the crimes, the violent crimes that are being committed right now. And the thing about it is, right, it's not like illegal alien violent crime has not happened before. But in this time span, I characterize from the time Biden went into office till right now as the greatest and deadliest, right? Taxpayer funded human smuggling event and border breach in the history of the country. And in just these 36 months you mentioned, every record has been broken from the past in illegal immigration. But then this administration keeps breaking and breaking and breaking their own record entries, apprehensions, gotaways. I mean, people want to put a number to gotaways. You can't. But I can tell you this: it's at least three times conservatively the number that we encounter. The number of deaths just in this administration alone. The rescues, not only now, this whole situation has made the Border Patrol job and the job of the DHS officers and Texas officers 100 times more risk of them jumping into a river, pulling people off of bridges, off, the accidents of people jumping off. So never mind fentanyl, never mind human trafficking, child trafficking. Child trafficking is about to overcome guns and drugs because there's more money in it, because, you sell drugs once, you sell a gun once, but you can sell a kid 5 times a day for 10 to 15 years, you see?
Yeah.
And so what do you think about that when I say that this is the greatest and deadliest taxpayer-funded human smuggling event in the history of America?
Look, I was, again, the research, you have to go and look for it, the right one. And I was recently listening to Todd Bensman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard about him.
Yes, great source, yes.
And he is a journalist that's out there in the trenches and getting information. And I was blown away by what he was talking about. And it starts at the government, goes through the State Department, it goes to USAID, that is an agency here in the United States that is actually creating this situation through the UN.
Yes.
Me, it was like, and they're not hiding it. That's the thing. If you go to
that's not going to get you a lot of fans, right? What you just said, just so you know.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, but people need to know that
yes.
That's such a big scale.
The strings are being pulled from far beyond what people think.
That's correct. And again, at the end of the day, we have the top, and then we have us, the bottom. And what concerns me, it's what I just said: health, housing, education. And I want people to understand that you need to pay attention. And this is happening because of who we have in power.
Right. The policies.
But the power, yes, but the power is the people have the power with a vote. And that's when elections, we could change everything. We, the citizens, we, the people, can change everything by getting up and voting. We cannot stay home and say, oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
we need to go and we need to talk to everybody around us and ask, did you vote? Because that's the power that we have.
Mike, if I hear another mention of the sleeping giant, right, or the red wave, I am going to throat punch somebody. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that I learned. And the great thing about this, there's been a lot of roadblocks thrown on me. I'll tell you right now.
I have no doubt.
It has been. I never thought it was going to be easy, but I never thought that even within your own party, that the roadblocks that you get, because you're not that guy, you're not that person that is going to follow, just
lockstep.
blindly. And I'm not that guy. So I prefer to stay Miguel Chapa, my values, and just follow, because I know I'm in the well. I'm a family guy. I have kids. I have friends and family that have kids, and that's what I'm doing. And
well, let me tell you something that I would rather be chasing a group of armed men with dope up and down a mountain for 3 or 4 hours in the dark, at midnight, in the middle of nowhere, than to jump into that swamp you're wanting to jump into right now. So I got to give you lots of credit for that.
Man, I'm feeling it right now. And I believe you. I believe why you wouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, I feel beat up at the end of every day. I'll be honest with you. But in the morning, I wake up energized, and I need that energy to continue, because I know that I'm doing the right thing. One of the things that I've done in our district here, in District 25, is that I think people can see through me, and they know that I mean well, because half of my team and people that I meet when I'm out on the street, I get pushback when they realize that I'm a Republican. But I just ask them, why don't we continue to talk about what we need and what's going on in your community, my community? And at the end of those conversations, we always end up on the same side.
Well,
half of the people that are following me and helping right now daily, I have people going out, knocking on doors, doing rallies for me. Half of the people are Democrats. They're concerned,
Yeah.
and they're concerned because I'm bringing up to their attention what the media is not doing.
Well, isn't it a dirty little secret that there are Democrats out there against open borders? There are Democrats out there against what these organizations are trying to do to corrupt our kids, right? And all with all that stuff, all that woke stuff going. There actually are Democrats out there, but they can't really be too loud about it, can they?
Well, there has to come a point where
Yeah.
they need to put their foot down and say, I have 3 kids or I have 1 kid. And as an example, AB 665 that passed and signed by the governor in California affects every parent in California. It takes the parents' rights away. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever you are. If you're a father, you should be concerned about protecting your kids.
Yes.
They've done in California, they've put a dollar sign on every single kid because obviously what they're going for is this transgender agenda that if you don't, again, if you don't see it out there 10 times in a day, you don't see it at all. So there's so many things, like I said, my platform, what is it? Everything, because everything needs to be fixed and there's a lot of things that need to be stopped. So when we go back, if I go back to your questions, like, yes, Democrats understand that their kids are in danger too.
Yeah.
And that's what I do when I sit down. And most of my campaign was sitting down. Guess what? I didn't sit with Republicans, with some because we're on the same side. You know how many meetings I had over and above Republicans? Probably twice as many.
Good.
Because I knew I needed. In California, we're outnumbered. I know I need the Democrat Hispanic vote to be able to represent them.
Yeah.
The good thing is that we speak the same language, and it's not about language only. I think it's culture. The culture where I come from. If you think about a smell in Christmas, what do you smell? Tamales.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not part of anything of a race. It's just our culture.
Yes.
And I think that's where I connect with my district because again, 70% is Hispanic.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point because when I go on vacation or we go out somewhere in a social setting and the people at the table find out I'm a Border Patrol agent, my wife just goes, oh no. That's what the conversation is going to be about. But the interesting thing, and I can reflect the reality of what you say when I speak to even the hardest core Democrat that I've spoken to, and I spoke to one literally at a festival up north in Riverside, and we had a conversation. She was asking me questions to be polite, and I just said, well, you know what? I said I worked for the border for 25 years, and then she says to me, well, she goes, what's the situation there? I said, do you really want me to tell you? I said, will it make any difference? She goes, I really want to know. And I just spent the next 10 minutes outlining for her kind of the stuff that you and I have been bantering about. I kid you not. By the time I got done with her, she was just like, I can't believe that. But it wasn't like, oh, go to hell. You're a Republican. You're probably going to vote. What? No, it was more like a truly shocked at the extent of it, because look, Mike, we're not talking just about the idea that the ideology of this administration is to just say everybody comes in. Never mind the fact that we're bringing them in so quickly and at such a large rate that by the time their background checks come, they're already gone. Right. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on, but recently they just arrested Michelle Angelica Pineda, or La Chelly, and she is a human monster, right? Ultraviolet gangs cutting the hearts out of the dismembered bodies of their victims, offerings to Santa Muerte, taking part in homicides, dismemberment, you name it. This monster is walking around free in the United States and has just been arrested. Okay. Now, one of the things I used to pride myself as an agent was that I was out hunting at night what you pretended did not exist, you as a citizen. And did some get through? Maybe here and there, possibly, but the goal was to catch them all. The goal was to catch them all. And America could sleep at night. When's the last time, honestly, before this administration, that you were concerned about what was crossing the border in the middle of the night? Probably not. You went to bed. That was not your concern. And you know what? That was my job. That was the Border Patrol's job for 100 years that we're about to have our anniversary. But now we can't say that. And one of the things that's killing agents, their heart, their soul, their spirit, their morale, is knowing that they're letting monsters like this woman, monsters like these other people that have raped children, that have raped and killed women, that have attack our citizens in New York. They're not even grateful for what they've gotten. We are just letting them go in mass, 5,000 to 6,000 a day. And you're right. You have to be aware of all that's going on, because this now affects everybody. Thoughts?
Well, again, one of my biggest concerns is crime, because just because we only see that right now at big numbers in bigger cities like Los Angeles or New York. I live in the Coachella Valley, so Riverside County, and we're kind of protected by the mountains. We feel very comfortable. But I'll tell you one thing: there's going to be so many people coming through. I'm sorry, they're already here. Right. That we're going to get that crime. So every time my wife goes out by herself with my 3 kids, and they're all, children, I have to tell. If I don't tell her 3 or 4 times, be careful, look around. She loves to go to the, to Target. And I said, look around. They're watching. You're not watching, but they're watching you. Yes. And the moment you blink, you could be in trouble. I never had to do that before, Gil.
Yeah.
Until now. Why? Because it's a reality. It is here, and people need to know. But the biggest issue, we go back, is the media. They're hiding the real information.
Yes.
When these people that are thinking that the border is closed, like this gentleman that sent me that message, but he's affected by anything that, that I just said, that when he goes to the hospital with his little kid and there's not a bed for him because there's no beds, or when somebody breaks into her house, or somebody attacks his wife, what are you going to do then? Are you going to change your mind and say, oh, I should have listened, I should have done something about it? And that is the issue. So I'm glad, there's people like you getting this information out there. We need to do more of this, because, again, people block themselves. When you say immigration, illegal immigration, they think about something else. Yes. What's happening right now, it's an invasion, and we need to be careful in every which way.
And that's exactly correct. And that's the thing, right? So New York, for instance, is experiencing this rush in crime. And here's the thing, right? So let's just put it on the table. This country thrives on legal immigration. It thrives on men and women coming from around the world to strengthen our numbers, our doctors, our lawyers, our workers, our farm workers, our agriculture. I'm not going to sit there like that idiot and talk about how we need Mexicans to populate the country and pick our crops. That's like such a minimalist, stupid, racist view of it. But when you glut a country with what might be, in my estimation, okay, and we can discuss the mechanics of it, I think we're upwards in the 50 million of illegal aliens in the country present right now. The number before Biden, and then the number since. Now, in the last census, 6 states changed their electoral college numbers based on those numbers of illegals, because now the census has to count every head, legal or not, right? What's going to happen in 2031 when the next census comes? How do you think that electoral college is going to end up at the end of that view, and possibly affect elections from this point on, right? And not to mention the fact that all the ones that are here now are the big push in every state to legalize them, to get them ID cards, to get them legal to vote, that rush that to get them ready to vote before the next presidential election. And who do you think they're going to vote for? If they were in their own countries, they would vote conservative because they don't believe in any of this nonsense that's going on right now, this woke nonsense, right?
Correct.
But here, they're going to vote for the people that they see as their benefactors by opening the border wide open. The people that have the monsters that have come in along with the decent people. Not everybody's a monster. No, we're not saying that. But we'd like to know who is who, right? That was the job of the Border Patrol, is to stand at the door and make sure if you're not going to knock on the door and you're going to crash through the window, I am going to find out who you are, right? So that's the situation we're really facing here, is just the overwhelming numbers that have taken over almost the entire aspect of society, including, by the way, big business and everything else. I mean, now we have the attention of Elon Musk. Have you seen his posts on X? It's like, okay, so he is wide awake on the whole border illegal immigration system, and he's just shaking his head every day, posting, going, "How are we letting this happen? Why is this happening? Why are we giving such a pass to the illegal alien crime that we would not give a normal citizen?"
And you're right. I mean, and you speak with different people, and everybody has their own theory as to the why. You mentioned
Right.
voting towards the future. Let's talk about a more ugly side of it. Let's talk about of these 10, 12 million people that are, and there's more you say, but what you see on the media.
We'll just go with the common numbers. Yes.
But the common numbers, that other people have heard. So how many military age men are there in that million? And where are those military age men? And why are they here? And why are they being housed together, in different areas of the country? What is that? I always say I rather err to the side of caution. So if I have to be a little negative and say, well, I'm going to be concerned about those men coming in for whatever reason. What's the reason? Everybody has their own opinion.
Right.
But what's happening, and I see the crime and the gangs that have already organized in New York.
Yes.
People organize pretty quickly. And if they're going to organize to do damage to our country, that could happen pretty fast. And they're already here.
Yeah.
If you look at different things, the why, what is the purpose? Voting, the military age men to break down our economy. Because again, this billions of dollars that are going out of the country, that's being created because there's no money. We are in debt, $34 trillion. So by creating more money to give it away, we're creating inflation. And that inflation affects me, affects you, it affects my neighbor, because when you go to the store, and I can tell you that 3 years ago, between 2 years ago and now, I know for a fact that my basic food bill is about 30% more when the numbers on media, we go back to the media, is single digits. Yes. So why don't you include food? Because I know the CPI numbers, they don't include the food and energy.
Right.
Why don't you include so people know, like, well, it doesn't feel like 6% inflation. It feels like 30. No, it is 30%, and that's what we're paying.
Yes. So $7 for a box, for a thing of bologna, over $7.
Absolutely. So when you say how does this affect everything? Well, it's affecting us first. It's hitting us first. If you talk about housing, there's 1.6 million units that we're short in the United States of housing already. That's not counting all the millions of people that come across. This was before it happened, 1.7 million units short of housing. What does that create? Supply and demand. There's no supply. There's a lot of demand. Guess what's going to happen? The prices will continue to rise.
Yes.
The interest rates, that change almost triple, from 3% to 7.5%. How can people afford houses?
Well, we have put billions of dollars just in infrastructure alone across this country with the purpose of mass processing and mass releasing literally for decades to come. I mean, billions of dollars now. Now, another thing is another aspect of it, and you thank you for those great numbers. That's very interesting information. Another interesting aspect is that this is being sold to us as well. All this influx of unvetted, unsecured, over 120,000 have been set free from special interest groups that we don't know where they are. The record numbers of Chinese illegals that are coming in now. That again, we'll table that aside for for an interesting. But we have spent upwards they guessed 450 billion. It's already, and that was months ago, right? San Diego sector, they gave the local NGO $3 million. They spent $6 million in just 1 week of illegal aliens coming into San Diego, all taxpayer money. So they sell it to us as this is good for us. It's good for our economy. It's good for our culture, the diversity and everything else. Well, when do we make up that almost $700 billion before we start seeing a return for our investment there? And I'll ask you this question and let you answer. How come all these sanctuary cities aren't begging for more aliens?
Well, most of the sanctuary cities you're talking about, they're already broke.
Yeah.
Let's start there. And
Okay.
it started with the policies that they've been working on for years.
Yes.
So their crisis began with their policy years ago. And one of those policies was that, well, let's bring more people in. How are you going to feed them? How are you going to house them if you are already broke? I mean, California, it could be its own economy, but yet we're going to have a deficit of $65 billion when it was the richest state in the nation.
Yeah.
How does that happen? It happens with bad policy.
Right.
It happens with people, not paying attention, I'll be honest, and voting for party and not the people. You need to vote for people that care about your community. That's why it's sectors, districts. Who represents, who knows, who understands your district? Like in my district, I could tell you that there's not one other candidate in my race that understands my district like I did. I was born and raised in Imperial Valley, which is 30% of my district. I had a business there until 2006. I relocated to the Coachella Valley, which is another 35% of the district, 23 years ago, where I've been running businesses for the same amount of time, been part of the Chamber of Commerce, always been involved, never in politics, always helping the community through the Builder Industry Association, through the Board of Realtors, president of the Hispanic Board of Realtors in Coachella. I'm currently a president of the Chamber of Commerce, so I'm helping small businesses in the Coachella Valley and in the city of Coachella specifically. Yeah. And I've always been involved in that. And my wife is from Banning, so I have friends in another 20% of the district. So when you talk about, if you want to talk to any other candidates about the border, guess what? You talk to me because I crossed that border to go to school. I lived in Calexico most of my life. I lived in Hillville. I lived in Imperial. I had an office in El Centro and did loans for families from Brawley, from Westmoreland, all the way to Calexico. Farm workers, doctors, politicians, everybody. I know everybody. And I do the same thing here in the Coachella Valley. I work with farm workers. I work with business people. So I understand the problem with the Salton Sea. I understand it because I'm very allergic. And when that summer comes, guess what? I get allergy because of that, that dust that comes in, whatever's in it. It's affected. But that leads all the way to Calexico. The problem of the New River, guess what? None of the candidates know anything about it because they never lived it. I could smell it, and I didn't live right next to it, but the whole city stunk because of the problem that is coming from Mexico. So let's not call it a local or a state issue. That's an international issue because it starts with a New River, it ends up in Salton Sea, and that's an international problem. So as far as the district is concerned, I wish people know where I've been all my life, in which I'm, promoting and talking about it, so they understand that the right candidate for my district is Miguel Chapa. I understand.
Because, you wanted to talk to me because you knew that not only in my 25-year career in the Border Patrol, but also since then, my close connection with everybody along the border, the rank and file agents, the intel that I get directly from the field. I send it out raw and unfiltered. So I'm the right guy for this kind of talk, but you're also the right guy to run your district, right? And you don't want to just make it well for the Republicans and conservatives in your area. You care just as much about the Democrats and the liberals and everybody else to enjoy the equal playing field of having the opportunities, the growth, the savings in their pocket. I don't care who you are politically. You like to save money. You like to have that extra money in your pocket, right? And right now, there's none of that going on. So let me ask you a couple of things. First of all, what is Miguel Chapa going to bring to the congressional seat in Washington, D.C.? Because, see, yes, you're going to be a California congressman, but you're also going to have a say in everybody else and what everybody else does in the rest of the country. So what does Miguel Chapa look like in Washington, D.C.?
One of the things that was very clear when I started, it's the information that I was getting was you don't need to be involved in local issues, and that was a red flag to me because I turned around. Everybody that said that I was very clear. The only reason that I'm running is for my community. So how am I going to go to Washington and forget about my community? One of the things that's been very clear, and one of the reasons that I feel that even the Democrat side is following me and helping me is because the first thing that I want to do is unite the community. You said it. It doesn't matter. So all these issues are not one-party issues. These are community issues. So one of my goals is to make sure that I'm able to work with local, county, and state agencies and politicians to make sure that we work together. I'm a Republican, but when I'm bringing in funds to our district, I don't care who's on the other side. If it's going to benefit the community and that agency is represented by an independent, I don't care. We're working together on this. That right now does not exist, by the way. That does not exist. Even within the same party, believe it or not. Within the Democratic Party, they do not work together. And that is a big issue. I'm going to Washington to be able to take care of my community. Obviously, my job is to, number one, represent our country.
Yes.
And one of the main things, and again, I moved from education and parent rights, which not moved away. I just moved them a little bit to the side to be able to secure, to focus on national security.
Yes.
And one of my first priorities is to make sure, I hope that this is resolved by the time I get there. But if it's not, I want to push a bill, the American Family Safety Act. And it starts with number one, Border Patrol are outnumbered. 19,000 Border Patrol agents and 12 million people coming across. What's that number?
Actually, you could start quoting up 15,000.
15,000. Okay, so 15,000 against 19,000.
Because we've diminished greatly, yes.
The first thing that I would do is make sure that we get our military involved. We have to. Why are we protecting borders in other countries, but not here? That would be number one, because our Border Patrol agents need a breather. They need help. I would bring funds, again, to the Border Patrol to make sure that we double. And that might not be enough, but it's a step in the right direction. Bring funds this is very important, bring funds to counties all along the border, because I've spoken with police and county officers and sheriffs. Their finances are not well. They can't recruit. They have substandard equipment. So this bill will bring in the military, will double our immigration, our Border Patrol agents, but will fund law enforcement agencies to protect our families, because we need that protection. It's already here. You said it. I said it's coming. You said it's already here.
It's already here, and it's going to get worse. But let me interject something that I know to be true, that you're going to have to take into consideration when you're putting this thing together. And that is that right now, I can tell you with 100% certainty that a policy change would take care of 80% of our problem. A policy change, just a policy change alone, that you start to enforce, the word starts to spread. and you get more agents out into the field and less agents processing, because as it sits right now, one of the biggest problems with this last border security bill that was a monstrosity is that, and even good people believed that it would bring a little bit to the table, a little bit of help, a little bit of respite to the Border Patrol. But any extra dollar and any extra agent is all going to go to a process and release. That's it. Process and release. Right. So I just want to throw that in, for your consideration as you're putting this thing together, because what you're telling me is, and one of the things that my personal philosophy is this: as a law enforcement officer, if I'm protecting you, I don't care what your policy is. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your race or background is. I will stand before a bullet for you regardless, because that's what I was sworn to do, and to protect. And so what I'm getting from you is, you're a Republican running on a conservative platform, but you're not looking to take care of just Republican conservatives. You want to take care of everybody, regardless of the Democrat, liberal, it doesn't matter. When the playing field is leveled and it's equaled, everybody gets a fair shake.
And absolutely, again, I go back, I'm a citizen first. I have
Yes.
family and friends that are independents, libertarians, and Democrats. Do I stop talking to them because of, how they're registered? Absolutely not. They come to my house. They come to my parties. They're my family.
Yes.
And I understand that we have different points of view. We live in America. That is allowed. And I just don't understand the separate or the separation that they created. Why? And like they say, separate, divide and conquer. It's true. We're a divided country.
Yes.
But
And it's
the way I look at it, we need to bring everybody together for one reason only: to defend our country and to protect our families. And that's what I'm running on. And I think that's one of the reasons I have, that support from everybody. It doesn't matter what they're registered, because they see through me and they see this is just a guy. This is just Mike.
Well, you're actually, even with my cynical law enforcement brain, you're almost convincing me.
Well, that's a good thing. That is definitely a good thing. But
so tell me, okay, so conventional wisdom, right? The RNC picks their favorites.
Mhm.
They pick their star players. You've already talked about the fact that you're not kind of going with the flow of the RNC, and I hate the fact, Mike, that we are at the mercy of the RNC to basically push the candidate in front of us, and then we don't have a lot of choice. Guys like you are running in California, in Arizona, but do you get to hear from them? Not really. In Texas, right? We can get into so much of the minutia of the border. We haven't talked about the NGO cartels. We haven't talked about the billions of tax dollars that are being funneled to people's straight into their pockets with these cushy contracts to handle, because illegal immigration, I don't know if you know this, has become the newest cottage industry in the United States, and it is lucrative. So to round out and close our talk for today, because we could go on, tell me how your campaign is going and what can we do to help?
The campaign is going very well. Like I said, I tend to look at the positive and just put back the negatives. And I already spoken about that, where I'm not that, the Republican guy. So that's it. That obviously set some roadblocks on me. One of the biggest things, fundraising was a problem, because if you're not being endorsed by your own party, then people say, well, why?
Yes.
And that's misleading, because the why, I never got the opportunity to really present my case to, to the GOPs, individual GOPs throughout my district.
Yes.
And so they had made a decision who was going to run, not really asking who Miguel was. And if they would have paid attention, they would have understand that, the first candidate, the best candidate to match up against the incumbent Ruiz is Miguel. because I understand I understand the district better than our current congressman, and he's been away for 10 years, so he's lost that touch with our community, which we all know he has. And so that's the negative side. On the positive side, I see the kindness of people that is still out there, and I see that people can change, and that division that has been created on purpose can be erased because they're backing me from every single party. That's special because I know that we have it in us, in the United States, to bring the country back together. Enough of the separation. I'm not with that. I want to be able to cross the aisle and talk to everybody and say, look, why are we here? We're here to help your community, my community. So let's stop politics. End politics and put our family first. We need to get rid of the corporate backup because it's tainted. That's where the money, and that's when the people lose touch. Number one, I'm for term limits because once you're in Washington for over 10 years, you lose touch with your community. You don't know how long to go to the store and say hello to the people. You're always over there. The fact that you come in over and people might not even go back home after 30 years. There's Congress people that are there, have been there for 40 years. How do you don't understand your community anymore? So term limits can be something. So the negative I said, how do the positive I said, I think I'm bringing people together and they're looking at me as that candidate that can do that. How do you help getting the word out? Checking out my Miguel Chapa #4congress.com. Looking at what I'm doing. Follow me on social media, same Miguel Chapa for Congress. And so people can understand who I am. And if they want to volunteer, I mean, we're short. We only have 5 days to go. But, also donations. I mean, everything right now, at the end of the day, right now, the big thing for me is getting out on social media. Make sure that I touch as many people as I can. And social media. So donations help. But overall, the experience about the people has been great. The experience about politics within our party have not. And that's not going to change my mind. I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. I'm not changing, but they need to change. The party needs to shake up and get back to the values that we have. They're trying to move to the other side to please.
That's not worked out for us at all.
No, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to please the other 50% of the country. That's not the right thing to do. Instead of pleasing them, why don't we try to bring them to our side in a different way, and not by allowing them to try to indoctrinate our kids, take away our parents' rights. We're going to know, we go nowhere with that. We go back to the basics. And basics is family values. Stay with the Constitution, and everything will be fine.
And secure our country. And that's the thing too, is that honestly, this whole divide seems more TV fiction than it does reality, because I have talked to many, and I have friends that are liberal, strong liberal, and there's not the screaming matches and shouting and yelling. There's the conversation, and we agree to disagree, or we discuss these things, and you don't see that in real life, right? This whole shrill, screamy, screeching kind of, angst and anxiety, except on TV. And then the media just blows it up out of proportion. So, yes, I think ideologically there may be a strong divide there, but I don't know how much of it is real, how much of it is actual, So I think you're appealing to a good base. And on my side of it, I am going to plaster you on all my social media. Almost all Border Patrol agents out there that love and hate me are going to get to know you. And so, not many haters, though, I'll have to admit, but is there any final comments or words you'd like to say before we close down?
Well, number one, I want to thank you for inviting me.
It was my pleasure, actually.
It was a pleasure meeting you at the Border Patrol golf tournament. I learned so much in that first half hour. You got me interested in something that needs to be taken care of. And thank you for your surge that you gave, and for everybody, all the Border Patrol agents out there. Make sure that you will have a supporter with Miguel Chapa. I know what you need because of you, Gil, because you've been telling me what's
Well,
out
I'm
there.
I'm shooting for a position as a policy advisor when you get elected.
That's a good one. Good one. And I need people with knowledge around me because I'm not a politician and I don't want to make mistakes because I don't ask. I rather surround myself with knowledgeable people like you. So thank you again for inviting me. Please get the word out to Border Patrol out there. The election is in 5 days on
Five
March
days.
5th,
Yep.
and we need to take that seat. We go to the next level, and then there's the general. But right now is the last push. Just spread the word and spread the love like you've been doing.
We will. And let me tell you something, man. You're almost melting my law enforcement heart here. Almost. You're getting close.
Well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure and it is an honor to speak to you, Mike. And we'll definitely talk again soon.
Thank you, sir. Take care of yourself. God
You
bless you.
too. God bless.
Bye bye.